think a great example of this is where I was really like, wow, like this is crazy, is going on dates. A lot of dates, I feel like a lot of dates in general are very centered around alcohol. It's like, oh, let's get a drink, or like you go out to dinner and drinks and like whatever. And sometimes you want to pregame the date, like have a drink while you get ready to calm your nerves and all that. And I think cutting that out as well has made just such a big difference. The most recent dates I've been on, we've had like a glass of wine. I have just felt so much better and more clear and like in control of the situation. And I feel like then you actually get to know somebody and you're not like, oh, I'm just drunk, so I feel like I like this person, you know? And I just had this moment like low-key recently where I was like, it was before we even had gotten our wine that we ordered, and I was just like, wow, like I feel so calm and just grounded and good right now. And I didn't feel like I needed to, you know, have a glass of wine before this, or like, oh my god, like let's just get this wine so we can like actually start, you know, relaxing and like talking to each other. Like I just genuinely felt very relaxed and at ease. And then, you know, we had our wine and it was cute and fun, and like that was all I needed. So I feel like that's much more my vibe, having that awareness of just like how much a drink, like one drink, affects your body. It's like, oh my god, I don't even want to like imagine, you know, taking shots right now. And so I say all this to say, you don't need to be an alcoholic to experiment with a lower alcohol lifestyle. And I think especially if you deal with mental health things, as I feel like, bitch, I feel like most of us do, let's be real. This world is like really hard to get through. Or if you just want to feel better, if you have fitness goals, if you just have like goals in your life, like alcohol really holds people back, I feel, from reaching like their true potential, and even just like reaching full sense of vulnerability in relationships. You know, I think a lot of relationships, especially, you know, when you're in your, you know, 20s, early 20s, I mean, but really at any time of life, I think a lot of relationships are kind of based around alcohol and partying and going out. And while there's nothing wrong with having like friends you only see when you go out, there is something to be said, I think, especially in dating, and I mean friendships too, but like there is something to be said for building a relationship like sober, low-key, just not being like fucked up every time you're around someone, or even just like tipsy, you know? It's like, I read this book on panic attacks and anxiety and agoraphobia and all of that, actually, like a few weeks ago, maybe it was last month. It's linked on my Goodreads. It was like a workbook. Like it literally looked like a textbook that you would like get at school. But basically they just talk about how the main thing you have to do to get through a situation you're anxious about, or that you're experiencing like agoraphobia over, which again is like the fear of, you know, basic tasks, because you fear that you're going to have a panic attack, is you have to do it. And you have to do it especially when you are experiencing that anxiety. And I just feel like this is true for so much. I tweeted recently like, oh, and I mean, this is kind of different, but it's like the same kind of core idea of like, bro, once you realize the feeling of embarrassment, or like, oh, I want to try something new, but what if I look stupid? When you realize that's just a feeling and nothing's actually going to happen to you, like it's very unlikely someone's going to come up to you and be like, oh, like you look so stupid doing this, you know? And if they do, like, who does that? That's like a weirdo. Once you can get over that, or at least push through it, you can achieve so much. Like I just saw a TikTok yesterday of this older woman who had a video like, oh, like I just went to the gym for the first time and tried to lift, and it was so embarrassing. I felt so stupid. And then she stitched herself now, you know, and you can tell she's been like working out. She looks like 10 years younger. She's like, oh, I just finished a workout. Because she stuck with it and pushed through that embarrassment and just that like uneasy feeling, she was able to achieve so much. And the same is true for anxiety and just kind of any uncomfortable situation. You know, I've talked about it before with you guys, how when you feel that, you know, like, okay, I have a choice right now to stay the same and create a different kind of loop. Like, oh my God, I always need to be, you know, reliant on alcohol to go on a date, or I always need to like avoid this certain situation because I fear it for some reason. Or you can face your discomfort and your anxiety. It's like so hard, bro. It's definitely easier said than done. But you're literally like retraining your brain, you know, so you can take the new uncomfortable path, and the next time it's going to be a little easier, and the next time it's going to be a little easier. And before you know it, like you have a whole new set of circumstances in front of you because you were able to push through. And I think that's also an important distinction. It's not about like, oh, get over it. Like, oh, get over your embarrassment, get over your anxiety. It's like, I'm going to do this despite feeling that. And that's where true like mental strength comes, you know? And when you can do that, like sober, in your right mind, in your clear mind, your brain is going to reward you so much. Like, bro, that's really the key. You just get so like strong, like confident in yourself and like mentally strong. I feel like ice plunging or cold plunging is really trendy right now. I've never tried it. I do want to try it. Like, I'm not going out of my way to try it, but like if I had the opportunity, I would try it. But it's basically where you I have tried it once actually, but it wasn't in one of those tubs. It was just like in a really cold pool in the winter. But anyway, it's kind of like that. Like, that's a controlled environment where you are putting you're putting your body and your nervous system in a really uncomfortable situation. Not unsafe, but uncomfortable. And it's basically teaching your nervous system to be able to relax in stressful situations. So when you're in that, you know, you're supposed to breathe deep and just, you know, mind over matter. Like, you have to be mentally strong to get through that. So yeah, I've talked about before how even like turning your shower really cold at the end of it and trying to stay there as long as you can, that can be a good thing. To a certain extent too, I feel like you just kind of have to be delusional and like, in the sense of like, think of life as like a simulation or like a game, kind of, you know? It's like, just be really mindful. Like today, this is so stupid, y'all. I was working at a coffee shop, sitting with my coffee, and my coffee started to cool down. I prefer using a straw with my coffee because I like to protect my teeth from getting stained because I drink a lot of coffee. I saw they had straws, and in my mind, for some reason, I felt like uncomfortable getting up to go get a straw because it's not like I was thinking this fully, but it was just, I felt a little uncomfortable. And I was like, bro, my mind thinks that someone's going to like yell at me for getting a straw, or like someone's going to be like, why do you need that? You have a hot drink. Like, why do you need that? I was like, bro, no one's going to do that. So luckily I caught myself and I'm like, I'm just going to go get it. And you have to like, again, put mind over matter and just like do shit, even if your body is telling you like, oh no, that's going to like be awkward. Or it's almost like your ego, you know, obviously listen to your intuition. And obviously, like, be reasonable. If something is literally unsafe, don't be like, well, I'm going to force myself to do it. But just in those, like, awkward, like, uncomfortable situations, or, like, especially if you grow up as a people pleaser, you're going to have a lot of that fear of just, like, shit. And it's like, you don't need to have that. Or again, it's like, it's okay to have it, but it's about pushing through it, like, being mentally strong and pushing through it. So I think experimenting with sobriety or even just a lower alcohol intake is very beneficial. And that could go for anything, you know, if you're really reliant on weed. And obviously, like, it's different if you literally struggle with an addiction. That's like a whole nother thing. But if you're just kind of like in the habit of drinking, or in the habit of like that's where you go to de-stress and to unwind, it's like worth, you know, examining and just trying something new and just like seeing how you feel. Because yeah, I just feel so much better now, and it's not like, oh my god, like, I'm cured, I never have anxiety again, blah blah blah. But it's like in my everyday, like, day-to-day, bro, it's like, it's so true. You need to work out, you need to get enough sleep, don't drink too much, don't drink, period, eat good, drink enough water, like those things. And I think community is also a really important one. Like, you could be doing all that, and if you're isolated, bitch, you're not gonna feel good. Getting outdoors, you know, getting sunlight, all of these things really do help so much. And it just sucks that we live in a society that's so like dysfunctional and, you know, promotes like drinking. It's just so normalized. And a lot of people, again, it's like, I think a lot of people, like the general population, has this specific idea of like what an alcoholic is. And it's like, oh, well, I don't have a problem because I don't fit this image. Just because you're not an alcoholic doesn't mean that alcohol isn't negatively impacting you. And again, especially if you deal with anxiety, it's just like, bro,